Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grustis, the Cycling Greek, and this is my second Zwift race in my off season. Today's race was on the shorter end of my desired warm-up time. Because I'm an old guy, I like to get about 45 minutes of warm-up, and today I ended up with about 20 or 25 minutes. I like to start off slow, then increase my speed a little bit for the next 10 minutes, and then start to do some increasingly harder intervals. Most younger people can get away with about 10, 20 minutes of warm-up, but me being 66, it definitely helps having more time. Time is not what I had today. I live on the American West Coast. The start time for this race was 4:30 and I'm off work at 4 o'clock, so I had to scramble to get on the bike. I usually do the anti-sandbagging crit course, but today it's the anti-sandbagging circuit race course. This course is just a little bit longer than the crit by about 0.4 miles. On the crit races, I usually last about halfway with the main group and then I'll get separated. Sometimes I'll be by myself and sometimes I'll be with a small group. The equivalent on this course would mean I'd have to make it to about the 5.5 mile mark with the rest of these guys. Now, this is a small group. When I first got in, there were only 4 people signed up and 7 people showed up. So I wasn't going to have a lot of wheels to hide behind. As with most of my races, if not all of them, I was by far the oldest guy in the group. Now there was one person that looked like he was in his 50s. He didn't have his age declared. But other than him and I, there were 3 people in their 40s and 2 people in their 30s. Using the parameters identified in zwiftpower.com, there was 1 person in our group that should have been in the A's. Now that that preliminary stuff is out of the way, let's get to the action on the screen. During most of the first half of the race, it felt like I was having a slightly easier time than I was in my last race last week. It could be because that I'm just that little bit stronger, or it could be that the pack is riding a little more conservatively because there's only 7 of us. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Still, it's less than a mile into the course, and I'm quite aware that at any moment these guys can just light it up and that'll put me in distress and or just leave me off the back. What I'm trying to do here is conserve as much as I can. Obviously I'm not putting in any attacks. What I'm trying to do is follow the flow of the rest of the others. I do that by going hard when they're going hard, and when I do go hard to stay up with them, I'm trying to stay on somebody's wheel. Same thing when they're backing off a bit. I'll back off and I'll still try and stay on someone's wheel. I was having a little bit of trouble with my control. What I mean by that is, too many times when the pack would back off, I wouldn't back off soon enough and I'd find myself floating past everybody to the front, and I obviously wouldn't be on anybody's wheel then. Now, I'd back off a bit and I obviously wouldn't be going hard, but what would happen is, at least in the beginning, that when they came by me, I wouldn't apply power soon enough, then I'd be off the back by about a bike length, and I'd have to use an extra power to get back up to them. And it was kind of like an oscillation thing. Eventually, I started to get a little more control of that, and I would anticipate when they would go past me. I would then apply a little more power, a pedal stroke or 2 sooner than what I was doing before, and that would keep me in the group and on somebody's wheel. Here's an example where there was a bit of an attack. We're lined out, I'm not on anybody's wheel, and I'm applying extra power just to stay up with these guys. They're letting up a bit, and I'm shooting past them. When I shoot past them, fortunately, I'm not doing it with power. I've let up. It's just that I was on the power a little too long, which caused me to shoot out in front of them. That meant I had a few revolutions of wasted power. With more of the same, let's fast forward to the first real attack. Notice the rider on the right side with the yellow jersey with the red streak down the middle. That is Mr. Buttons. He had commented during our staging that, with so few riders, an attack may work. He then commented he was dropped on a recreational ride he was using as a warm-up to this race. I was keeping my eye on this guy. He has jumped to a 1-second gap. 1 second is pretty long in Zwiftland, where it wouldn't be so long out on the road. As you can see, everyone is lined out chasing. And you can also see that I just got on somebody's wheel and I'm passing them, but I have daylight in front of me. And this is costing me extra energy just to be able to stay in the game. Right now I'm in 5th position, so that means there's 2 people behind me. My wattage is dipping a bit because this is starting to tax me, and Salinero is just shooting past me. So again, no wheel, but now I'm in 6th position and there's some poor soul in back of me. Looking at my camera inset in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that I'm now standing trying to get more power. I'm punching it and I'm sitting down because now I just can't keep that up, and I'm still off of the back of these guys. At least I'm still able to chase, but I'm not sure how long I can keep this up. Now there's 5 riders with a 1-second gap in front of me. Once we fast forward to here, look up ahead and you'll see that Mr. Button's attack was countered by Trenton Higley. Higley picked up a 2-second gap in no time. I am taxed. I'm trying to minimize my losses while trying to still stay in contact with these guys. I don't want to get dropped, but I'm real close to it. They seem real close. But if you look at the graphics on the far right-hand side, my numbers are less than their numbers in terms of watts per kilogram. You'll also notice that Mr. Buttons has bridged up to Mr. Higley, and that Phil Guhan from South Korea has done the same. I am thinking that they're thinking that this is early in the race and that no one's getting away right now. They're going to dial back so they can recover and do this again. While that enables me to reconnect, the doing it again part is going to kill me. That also has me concerned that I'm not going to be able to make it to the halfway mark with these guys. And then I immediately noticed with the graphics on the right that there is one rider, BK, that's about 25 seconds off the back. If I get dropped from the pack, I'm still going to have to apply a lot of power just to stay away from BK. My mindset then drifts over to, man, I hope I can get to the halfway point with these guys. If I can just get to the 5.5 mile mark. And then I was realizing the trap that I set for myself, and where the title of this video comes into play. If all I'm going to focus on is being able to do what I did before, I'm never going to be able to do more. I then started thinking, I don't need to get to the 5.5 mile mark with these guys. I need to get past it with these guys and stay with them for as long as I can. Jumping forward 3.5 minutes, we're heading into the underpass. And this is an area where people tend to attack. At least I think they tend to attack. And we're getting an attack now from Fumitaka Nakaya from Japan. Again, using the graphics on the right, looks like he's going over 10 watts per kilogram. I'm punching it on this climb as much as my 66-year-old legs will let me. Again, I find myself with a big gap to the rider in front of me, who happens to be Mr. Buttons, and I'm trying to stay on this guy's wheel as he goes past me. I'm still in the wind, but I'm still in the hunt. I know that I can't let up until I'm on somebody's wheel. I also know, especially because of the previous 1-minute chase, that I don't have a lot of extra energy to spare to shoot past them. Where I thought these guys were going to bunch up, they're not bunching up, and I still have to chase. And the people that were behind me, now they're going past me. I'm starting to hurt a little more than I want to hurt. I'm looking up there and I'm seeing that's the halfway mark. This is not where I want to get disconnected. Looking at my insert, you can see I just sat down from standing up and trying to punch it up to them, and thankfully I was able to make that happen. I'm starting to shoot past them, but I don't care right now. I'm with the group. This was another 1-minute effort for me. Jumping ahead to the start of the last lap, we have another attack by Mr. Buttons. The others have started to chase after him, and now there's a gap between me and the rest of them. This is where I get to test my mettle. I've gone 7 miles of this 10-mile race and clearly into the second half of the race with this group. I am hurting. Clearly my legs are not feeling as good as they were in the first half of the race. Every pedal stroke is more of a struggle now. I can ease up just a bit and still have a good chance of staying away from BK, who's now about 1.5 minutes behind me. But I can't do that right now. Not if I want to improve. There's a difference between giving up and giving out. I may be close to giving out, but I haven't given out yet. I make it up to the group, and Mr. Button now has a 3-second lead on us. At the moment, I'm not too worried about that. There's 3 miles to go, there's 1 of him, and there's 5 of us. Well, really 4 of us and me. Fast forwarding, we see that Mr. Button made a great effort by being out there for half a mile, though he never got a greater distance than 3 seconds. How I got the legs to do what I did to stay with him on this chase, I don't know, but my confidence has increased. Not necessarily to get a very good result and beat these guys, but to stay with them toward the end. Jumping forward to the turn that leads to the tunnel for the last time, I've been starting to think about how I can attack these guys and see if I can get away. I quickly realized that I'd be sabotaging myself to try and do that because I'd get countered and I'd get dropped. So the best thing I could do now to help increase my form for the future is stay with these guys for as long as I can and see if I can get to the line with them. So we're doing the same thing again. There's a lot of power being applied going up this climb, and I can tell I'm starting to run out of gas. Not in terms of energy, but in terms of muscular strength and power to be able to match these guys with their watts per kilogram. And this is where I truly give out. I just can't stay with them. Now, I'm not settling back easily. I'm still trying to do what I can just in case these guys slow down, but also because I don't want to have a big time gap between me and the winner. And speaking of time gaps as I jump forward, it turned out to be 23 seconds. So, out of the 7 of us, I came in 6th, and Mr. BK is about another 2 minutes out, but he'll be coming in. Good on him for sticking it out and getting the work in. He's not going to get better if he would have pulled out. Now, my day isn't done yet. One of my main focuses this off-season is building leg strength. After a cool-down spin and a shower to further recover and also to get all that sweat off me, next step was to get into the garage and do some squats, deadlifts, and good mornings. You may have heard that when you get past a certain age, an age that's much younger than I am right now, you lose about 1% of your VO2 max a year. I had come across a study that showed that you really lose about 1/3% of your VO2 max a year. The other 2/3 is because of muscle loss. So I'm working on not having any muscle loss.